Welcome to A Century of Cinema. Today we'll be exploring my favourite films of 1947. First up is Escape Me Never. It stars Ida Lupino as Gemma, a widowed mother of a baby she calls Piccolo. She is taken in by a charming, roguish composer, Sebastian Dubroc, played by Errol Flynn, which causes a misunderstanding with the wealthy fiancé of Sebastian's brother Carol, Gig Young. Eleanor Parker plays Fenella, Carol's aforementioned fiancée. Sebastian and Carol head to the Dolomite Mountains in pursuit of Fenella, with Gemma and Piccolo in tow. While performing to pay their way, Sebastian meets and takes a shine to Fenella, unaware of who she is. When he finds out, to avoid upsetting the apple cart more, he and Gemma leave for London and get married. Sebastian writes a ballet inspired by Fenella, which is soon funded by Fenella's family. At the same time, Piccolo becomes ill. Naturally, Sebastian and Fenella selfishly begin an affair, and while Sebastian is gone, Piccolo dies. Only then does Sebastian wake up to himself and realize what Gemma means to him. So much of the main plot revolves around Sebastian, but Lupino's Gemma is the anchor to the whole thing. She is the reality, the grounding force in Sebastian's flighty, aimless life. And she is really the only thing that gives that life meaning. And Ida Lupino is heartbreaking as Gemma. Escape Me Never was a critical and commercial failure when released. And it's not without its flaws, but two factors elevate the film to one of my favourites of 1947. The incredible, powerful score by Erich Wolfgang Korngold, his last full film score, before retiring from film work. And first and foremost is Ida Lupino's performance.
Sebastian, I've known a lot of rotten people in my life, but none the equal of you. You lie and cheat and break promises right and left, and then think because you put your arms around me, everything's all right. Forgiven and forgotten.
Wait a moment,
You're rotten. I say it again, and I say it to your face.
In 1947, Lupino also starred in Deep Valley, and was excellent in that too. But her performance as Gemma edges it out due to the range and depth of emotion portrayed. When she's introduced, you see her beautifully playful side. Then, in her relationship with Sebastian, she can be supportive, tough as nails, or vulnerable to the point of wounded. Finally, when the child dies, her grief, in realistic stages, has an exceptional authenticity. That's why Ida Lupino in Escape Me Never is my choice for Best Actress of 1947. Lured, directed by Douglas Sirk, stars Lucille Ball as Sandra, a taxi dance girl living in London, whose friend becomes the latest victim of the poet killer, so named because he sends poems to the police following every murder. Scotland Yard's Inspector Temple, Charles Coburn, leads the investigation and recruits Sandra to help, having noticed her keen observation skills, as well as her more obvious assets, which would serve to get the killer's attention. Since the killer finds his victims through the personal columns, Sandra is tasked with responding to ads that could be the killer, one of which is Boris Karloff as demented fashion designer Charles Van Druten. He's only in essentially one scene, but he makes quite an impression. As Sandra continues responding to ads, she meets theatrical producer Robert, George Sanders, and they take a shine to each other very quickly, and soon get engaged. Cedric Hardwicke also appears as Robert's officious business partner, Julian. The identity of the killer is not terribly hard to figure out, but nevertheless I see no need to spoil the ending, since the story is not really what matters in Lured. Douglas Sirk does an excellent job at the helm, even evoking shades of Hitchcock at times, in atmosphere and overall tone, which is also enhanced by William H. Daniels' classy noir cinematography and Leo Roston's witty screenplay, based on the 1939 French film Piège. And my two main reasons for loving this movie are George Sanders, charming and unctuous, here leading a little more heavily on charming than he sometimes does, and the wonderful Lucille Ball. She is a delight in this. Her dramatic work is excellent, but, as is also true with Sanders, it is her innate comic gift, which, for me, sets Lured apart from other similarly themed films. And the scenes where Ball and Sanders get to show that off are my favourites. along with Karloff's scene, which teeters delicately in the line between horror and comedy. Lured is a very well executed and surprisingly fun film, considering the subject matter. And due to the stylistic choices, excellent pacing, and seamlessly weaving humour in with the thriller elements, I'm giving my best directed nod to Douglas Sirk for Lured. Elia Kazan's Gentleman's Agreement, based on a novel by Laura Z. Hobson, stars Gregory Peck as journalist Philip Green, who, when tasked with writing a piece about anti-Semitism, pretends to be Jewish in order to genuinely experience what Jewish people actually face on a daily basis. Only his family, his boss, girlfriend Kathy, Dorothy McGuire, and Jewish best friend Dave, played by John Garfield, know the truth, since he has only recently moved to town and taken a new job. This film does not delve into the bigger scale bigotry of hate groups and Nazis, etc., but focuses on the casual, everyday anti-Semitism, which infects more people than would care to admit. In fact, almost everyone he knows and meets carries some prejudice with them. These are not evil people, they are merely ignorant and uninterested in fostering meaningful change, even if they talk a good game. Even Kathy, who is very woke for the time, finds her own prejudices exposed. One character who actually turns out to be completely free from prejudice is Celeste Holmes Anne, a friend of Philip's, who is also quite smitten with him. Holmes actually won an Oscar for her performance in Gentleman's Agreement, and it also took Best Director for Kazan and Best Picture. I feel like Moss Hart's screenplay missed out here, because it walks the line between subtly revealing prejudice to slapping you in the face with it. Also, the cast is excellent from top to bottom. A young Dean Stockwell does an excellent job as Philip's son Tommy. Anne Revere as Philip's ailing mother is the moral and emotional centre of the film. She supports and encourages Philip on his quest, and she beams with pride at his innate goodness. Dorothy McGuire has quite a thankless task, portraying Kathy, but she carries it very well. However, the standouts for me are Celeste Holm as Anne, who is subtle, beautiful, yearning, vivacious, and quietly passionate all at the same time. John Garfield as Dave gives possibly the best performance of his career. As a Jewish American, the film and role meant a lot to him, and it shows in his face, voice, and demeanour when he speaks to the Jewish experience. I've never been a huge fan of John Garfield, but he really won me over as Dave. And of course, Gregory Peck as Philip. He carries the significant weight of this important film squarely on his shoulders, and I cannot think of another actor who could have pulled it off as well as he did. He completely owns the role, and easily holds up as a moral crusader. And he nails those extremely well-written monologues, which make as much sense now as they did then. So Moss Hart's screenplay, based on Laura Z. Hobson's novel, is my choice for best screenplay, and Gregory Peck gets my best actor nod.
People who never beat up a Jew or yell kike at a child. People who think that anti-Semitism is something away off in some dark crackpot place with low-class morons. That's the biggest discovery I've made about this whole business, Kathy. The good people, the nice people.
Finally, it's Dark Passage. Written and directed by Delmer Daves, and based on a novel by David Goodis, it is the third and least well-known screen pairing of Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall. Bogart plays Vincent Parry, an escaped convict, wrongly convicted of murdering his wife. He is taken in by Lauren Bacall's Irene Jansen, who wants to help Vincent because her father was once wrongly convicted, and she sees that Vincent is also innocent. With the aid of a friendly cab driver, Vincent is taken to a plastic surgeon who operates on him to alter his by now infamous face. He then finds his friend murdered, and again takes refuge with Irene while he recovers. The two grow very close and fall for each other before Vincent attempts to clear his name, then escape to Peru. Director and screenwriter Delmer Daves does an excellent job in both departments, giving the film a great pace and visual style, aided by Sid Hickok's exemplary cinematography. Two particular examples of this come to mind. The first half of the film does not show Bogart's face. Wisely, it was decided that rather than cast another actor or put Bogart in makeup for those scenes, they would film a lot of scenes from Vincent's point of view or obscure his face in darkness. A perfect example of taking a problem and turning it into a creative masterstroke. Also, filming some scenes on location on the iconic streets of San Francisco gives the film an extra dimension. The imposing hills create the feeling that even the environment is against Vincent. His only haven is with Irene. I've already gone on record a couple of times about how much I adore the pairing of Bogart and Bacall. This is a departure for them. There is virtually no trace of their by now signature playful banter. Nevertheless, their chemistry is as strong as ever, and individually they both turn out excellent, nuanced performances. Also, Agnes Moorehead as Madge, the woman who lied on the stand to put Vincent away out of spite and jealousy, is absolutely hateful, and she relishes every moment of it. So, with a great cast and a talented crew, all at the top of their game, Dark Passage is my choice for Best Picture of 1947. Join me next time on A Century of Cinema when I will be discussing my favourite films of 1948. Now go watch a movie.